I worked up on the third floor of our house in New York. I have this cozy little study that is in what used to be the attic of the old farmhouse we live in, and just sort of toiled away and sort of dragged the manuscript that I was working on with me everywhere I went, including on vacation, which actually turned out to be a godsend because I had the idea about how to begin the book by starting at the end of my 2008 campaign and talking about the very unlikely journey that led me to be asked by President-elect Obama to serve as Secretary of State, and then to develop a partnership and friendship with him over the 4 years we worked together. I considered a lot of titles. As you might guess, I had a long list of unsolicited suggestions. Some said It Takes a World, because I had written a book back in the 90s called It Takes a Village. And that was certainly true in the writing of the book. I had a lot of great help. There was also this wonderful idea that just stayed with me that I thought about very seriously. The Scrunchy Chronicles, 112 countries, and it is still all about my hair. I got a big kick out of that because even during the 4 years I served as Secretary of State, I did go to 112 countries. I was on the airplane for so many days, and I didn't have time to worry about my hair. And so I just let it grow, and I pulled it back, and oh my goodness, I got so many comments about that. The hardest part was writing it. The hardest part was working on it. I had a great, great team that I could never have done it without. But ultimately, I had to take responsibility for every word. I had to be the one who decided how I wanted to describe a situation, how I thought it fit into my overall view about where America is in the 21st century. How to connect it with people here at home. You know, why does an economic crisis in Athens, Greece affect people living in Athens, Georgia? The 4 years were obviously very demanding and involving, but for me personally, the two most important events were my daughter's wedding in late July 31st of 2010. I was trying to help, pick flowers and china and make decisions as I was flying around the world. And then my mother's death in November 1st of 2011. So on a personal level, I had the heights and the depths of emotions and experiences. And for both of them, I was incredibly grateful that I could be open enough and ready enough to embrace those experiences while still carrying my responsibilities. And at the end of the day, they're the two most important events of those 4 years. A lot of others come close, but nothing will ever replace the joy and the sorrow that I personally experienced. I really feel that everybody has hard choices in their lives, and some have a lot more than others, to be honest. All kinds of questions. How do you get a good job? How do you keep it? What happens if you lose it? How do you afford your education, particularly if you want to go to college? Whether to get married, whether to stay married. I mean, those are the kinds of hard choices that everybody grows up with. And I saw the same thing with nations and leaders. Countries have hard choices, and how they make those choices determines whether or not people are prosperous, free, have opportunity, can pursue their own dreams. And the more I thought about it, I thought really choices is at the core of what kind of people we want to be and what kind of countries we want to have. And I think that's especially true here in our own country at this moment in our history, because I do talk about some of the hard choices we face as Americans. I think Americans will find in this book, of course, behind the scenes, insight, particularly my relationship with President Obama and with the White House, but also my views about what we needed to do to restore American leadership. At the time I became secretary, there was a a fairly strong current of thinking that the United States was in decline. Now, I have lived long enough to know that that periodically surfaces, and academics and commentators and others start talking about the United States declining. I didn't believe it then. I don't believe it now. But I also don't believe that our leadership is somehow endowed from birth of our country. I think that people will see that we are strong and well-equipped to restore prosperity here at home, to deal with the cancer of inequality, to give people in our country the ladders of opportunity that have always been a hallmark of the United States and the American dream. But they will recognize it doesn't happen by accident or wishing for it or engaging in ideological and rhetorical battles. It happens because people come together and make a series of choices, including some hard choices, to establish the foundation for a strong economy, a strong, united society. Because at the end of the day, we're only as strong abroad as we are at home. You have to recognize that most people everywhere in the world want the same things and have the same feelings. We may look different, we may worship different, we may have different cultural customs, but I looked at all the research I could find in taking the job as secretary, and I wasn't exactly surprised, but I was, once again reminded that people want a good job, they want a decent living for themselves and their families, they want to live in peace and security, and that the troublemakers in the world are such a small percentage of the vast population that inhabits the world as we know it today. We're freer, we're more democratic, we're more peaceful, but we also know more. So when something horrible happens, you can't escape it. It's right there in front of you. And so we are constantly looking at the crises, looking at the conflicts. But I think the world is slowly moving toward greater opportunity and greater freedom. And in the next years, you will see enormous increases in the middle classes of these countries, China, India, Brazil. They will be looking for new ways to express themselves, new freedoms in order to interact in politics and economics. That's good for America.